Hello from Porto. My friend Chantal and I are spending 2 weeks exploring Portugal, staying in Lagos, Madeira, Porto, and Lisbon. We've just spent 6 days exploring the island of Madeira, and now we're going to be spending the next 2 nights in Porto. We're staying at the Calle Guest House, which not only is one of the most affordable accommodations I've stayed at in Europe, it's also one of the largest rooms. We were on the top floor and had an amazing view. Breakfast was included in the rate and it was delicious. And even though we were on the top floor and it's a walk up, there are a lot of stairs. The employees there were fantastic and carried our bags up and down for us. Since we only had a day and a half in Porto, we didn't waste any time and we headed right out into the city, starting with the Porto Cathedral. The cathedral was built in the 12th century and is a mix of Baroque, Romanesque, and Gothic stylings. Throughout the cathedral, you'll see the incredible tile work that you can see everywhere in Portugal, but especially in Porto. One of my favorite parts, and one of the main reasons people visit this cathedral, is for the view upstairs. It is a bit crowded, but totally worth it. Adjacent to the cathedral is the Bishop's Palace. You can get a combination ticket to visit both, and it's totally worth it. The interior of this building is amazing. It was first built in the 12th to 13th centuries as the residence of the Bishop of Porto, before getting a complete makeover by the Italian architect Nicolai Nasoni in the 18th century. The building's facade is known for its workmanship and the interior for its superb Baroque staircase. Later in the evening, we went for a stroll down along the river. And grabbed some delicious dinner, and then stumbled on something weird. We just walked in the store and we thought it was a candy store. It is not a candy store. It is a sardine store. We found out later this is actually a chain and they have these all over Portugal, but it was one of the funniest stores I've ever been in. We have tickets for 9:30 for an entrance into Livraria Lello, which is a famous bookstore, and we're currently in line for a timed entry. I knew that this was popular, but I didn't know that we had to arrive so much before our timed entry because we are in the back of a very long queue of people that have 9:30 entries. Livraria Lello, also known as the Harry Potter bookstore, was voted by Lonely Planet as the 3rd most beautiful bookstore in the world. It's become so popular, you do have to buy a ticket to enter, but you can use the price of your ticket towards the purchase of a book. After our visit, we headed over for a free walking tour. We stopped at one of the most beautiful McDonald's in the world, followed by one of the most beautiful train stations in the world.
On top, what does that look like? It's a tournament. The tournament, the difference between a tournament and a party is that a tournament is a gentleman's agreement. There's a mutual game.
Our guide for this tour was great. He had so much information and made it really interesting. He showed us a lot of really high points in Porto, and I do always recommend doing a free walking tour in any new city. We've walked over the bridge to the other, it's not technically Porto, but I forget the name of it, to the other side of town. And there's like a hill right over the bridge and it's covered in people and I have no idea why. I think we would watch sunset. So we climbed up a hill to a church because the mound down by the river was just absolutely completely packed. We couldn't even get a photo by the river because the entire wall was packed. Up here it's almost as packed. We had to like squeeze in to grab a photo, but lesson learned, if you want to watch the sunset in Porto, you have to get here really early to grab your spot on the wall if you want to be able to see the river. The next morning, we caught the train to Lisbon. We did the fast train, so it only took about 3 hours to get from Porto to Lisbon. We stayed at the H10 Duque de Lule, and it was so nice. I loved the window seat. Even though the view wasn't the best, the room was super comfortable. We made a quick stop for coffee and some lunch before heading over to our free walking tour of the Baixa neighborhood. The tour took us to some amazing sites in the Baixa neighborhood, including the City Hall of Lisbon, Augusta Street, Santa Justa Elevator, Rocio Square, São Domingos Church, and so much more. After a long first stay in Lisbon, we had the best meal I had in Portugal. It was amazing, and headed to bed early because we were off to Sintra the next morning. So we are on the train to Sintra, which is a town in the mountains just outside of Lisbon, and we are going to go see some amazing palaces today. So we're in line to see the well at Quinta da Regalaria. This is one of the palaces at Sintra. We had to wait for a boat, so we got here like 30 minutes after it opened. This palace was built by an eccentric Freemason, and it houses a lot of mysterious things with pagan and occult symbols, and the initiation well is one of them. It was never actually used as a well. It was used for ceremonies. When you exit the well, you have to go through a cave and then back out into the gardens. The grounds of the palace are really beautiful and definitely worth exploring. There's lots of cool towers and hidden walkways. It's pretty interesting. There's also a really beautiful chapel. And of course, the amazing main palace itself. I loved all the detail in this palace. It had beautiful floors, it had really intricate doorknobs and decorations on the doors. Even the ceilings were just crazy ornate. It was a really fun palace to walk through. You didn't get to go in a lot of rooms, but the rooms that they did show were just really beautiful and interesting, and it definitely feels like somebody eccentric built this. It's only a few minute walk from this palace into the town of Sintra, and I definitely recommend visiting. It's a really cute, historic little town, and we found the best pastel de nata anywhere. So, everything I watched about Sintra said, you can take Bolt or Uber all around with no problem. That is a lie. We've had so much issues taking Bolt. They either don't have a driver to accept or someone far away accepts, and it takes them 20 minutes and then they cancel. And now, we just had a Bolt driver to take us to Penn Palace. She took forever to get to us because she went the wrong way. Got us in her car, took off with us, went the wrong way and said, "Oh, it's gonna take too long. I can't do this ride, you need to cancel." I made her cancel, She made us get out the bottom of the hill that we had just walked up to get a Bolt. And now we're walking up again because she made us get out and to get a refund for the ride. But it's just been a mess. We finally found a Bolt to take us up to Penn Palace, and now we are in line for tickets. Penn Palace is definitely the most popular palace in Sintra. Its exterior looks ancient, but it was actually built in the 19th century. So we're visiting Penn Palace in probably the worst possible weather. It is rainy, it is foggy, but we're here. It is still beautiful. We're taking advantage of a break in the rain to check out the outside. And we did decide to go inside, even though it's a little crowded, and we had to book an entry time like 2.5 hours after we got here. We went and sat in the restaurant for a little while to stay out of the rain and checked out the gift shop. And now we're checking out the balconies while it's not raining, and then we're heading inside. Because of the palace's popularity, it does run on a timed entry system, so it's a great idea to book your tickets ahead of time, unlike us. The palace is also surrounded by beautiful gardens, and in nicer weather, we would have loved to explore them, but it was just awful outside, so we were dying to get indoors. Now, I'm sure that you've read or seen or heard that walking through the palace is kind of like standing in line for a few hours, and it's true, it is. But if you like history and old homes, this is a beautiful palace and definitely worth the visit, even though it's crowded. The fog on the hills was definitely beautiful, but this wind was insane. It did finally stop raining, and the sun came out a little bit as we were leaving, which was nice to enjoy some of the gardens as we walked down to the bus to go back to the train station. On our last full day, we had the classic Portuguese breakfast of an omelette and fries. We've come to see the Tower of Belém, and our lovely weather in Lisbon continues, as you can see. The 16th century fortification is an impressive monument and definitely worth the look. The line was too long for us to wait for tickets, so we decided to head over to Pastéis de Belém to try what is somewhat renowned as the best pastel de nata in Portugal. I still think that the ones in Sintra were better, but these were delicious as well. We had a walking tour of the Alfama neighborhood scheduled for later in the afternoon, so we decided to kill some time and walk around and see the sights. But then it started to rain. And rain a little bit more, and rain really hard. Liquid sunshine! It's not super pleasant to be outside today. It's a bit gross. Now it is an absolute deluge outside, so we are standing here waiting to see if maybe it stops because there's like a river running down the street. It's crazy. Today was our last day in Lisbon, and we went out to Belém and we tried to go see some more neighborhoods in Lisbon and see some of the things we hadn't seen because we really didn't get to spend much time here, but the rain just would not stop. So we've been hanging out, drying off at our hotel room, but I think now we're gonna go check out an indoor shopping center so that we don't get soaked again. We took a 15-minute boat ride from hell. That beeping didn't stop the entire time on the way to the shopping center. Luckily, the shopping center was really big and really nice. We looked around at the different shops and grabbed some food and just kind of relaxed before heading back to the hotel and getting ready to fly out the next morning. Do not skimp on time at the Lisbon airport. Customs is long. But we made it through in time to catch our flight back to the US and say goodbye to Portugal. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, please like and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a thing. I will see you in the next one.